let's address the elephant in the room. He spoke about incentivizing production, super rich and all of that. How is the Modi government incentivizing corporate India by letting one man build leading monopolies across ports, airports, food, agriculture, renewable energy, and look at what that contagion is doing to corporate markets. Look at what that contagion is doing to LIC, what that contagion is doing to SBI. And not a squeak from India's regulators. There are indices like Dow Jones and S&P that have put out scathing statements saying fraudulent and serious allegations. Look at the severity of their tone. There are institutions like Citigroup, Standard Chartered, Credit Suisse that have said we can no longer accept Adani Group's bonds as collaterals for any loans. But not a squeak from our regulators. And let me tell you, in my earlier capacity as a business news journalist, I can tell you there is SEBI, there is RBI, there is IRDA, which is the insurance regulator, there is DRAI, there is ED, there is SFIO, there is MCA. Multiple agencies and institutions actually should be looking into the mess on which the government has chosen to maintain a stoic silence, and people to my left and right hold a brief to defend them.
Now, this is where the opposition has its knives out for you, Sudhanshuji, saying that this is a government. Jairam Ramesh tweeted on behalf of the Congress to say, "Akhir Adani aapke hain kaun?" Now, is this turning out to be a big problem in Parliament and outside?
Taken the issue to China and the international aspect, so I would like to put forth certain facts. You have said that a knife out, it's knife out certain things to cut the growth story of India. I would like to give an example. iPhone factory shifted from China to India in Bengaluru. You remember 2 years back? Such a huge strike and violent strike in only iPhone factory. How come? And who is going to be benefited? I think anybody can understand if somebody is having doubt, he should or she should try to check their common sense.
No, so Mahesh Jethmalani ji said yesterday that he sees a Chinese hand in the attack on Adani by Hindenburg. Are you supporting that?
I am just saying that if Apple has started manufacturing 25% of the phones in India and a violent strike in which damage was done only in Apple factory, तो मुझे लगता है समझने वाले समझ रहे हैं, ना समझे वो अनाड़ी है.
So Rahul, you are essentially suggesting here. Oh, I thought you were done.
Now coming to the international aspect she has mentioned. Then I would like to say, I'm not quoting the government of India data, IMF saying that India's growth rate is going to be 6% next year. And what is going to be the global growth rate? 2.9. I would like to ask, name a single G7 country, single G20 country, which is going to have higher growth rate than India, or any country which is having lower inflation than India. And as far as the international agencies are concerned, I would remind just a couple of months back, these people you were chest thumping that in hunger index we have gone down, even gone down with Pakistan, in which क्या situation है, खाने का ठौर नहीं है, दंगे हो रहे हैं, गोलियां चल रही हैं और उनसे हम पीछे हैं. If these type of things happen overseas, and also I would like to say, since last 7 or 8 years, you go and check the timing of the things. Whenever there is a session of parliament is going to be there, from Rafale time to Pegasus time to this time, suddenly something erupts. And taking the clue of that, they always try to create a ho-halla, and finally nothing substantial come out of that, because I think they are trying to evade the real discussion, because discussing here on the on media platform is very easy. You say something and go out, but it's standing on the floor of the house, there is an issue that if you are saying anything incorrect, there is can be a matter of privilege. Like they are saying that per capita income is going down. Finance Minister in her speech has said that in the last 8 years, it has doubled. 1,97,000. They are not able to talk to that.
Do you just one thing, Ashwani ji, do you see in the Hindenburg Adani report a Chinese conspiracy, an alleged attempt, a geopolitical war which seems to be at place, where China is trying to trip one industrial conglomerate because they seem to be adding to India's economic diplomacy capacity internationally?
We have to look at the Hindenburg attack on 5 points. One, whether Hindenburg had some conflict of interest, everybody will say yes. Second is whether Indian laws permit Hindenburg to do like this. The answer is no, because this has happened in the lower court. 30 Hazari court Hindenburg was questioned, they didn't contest, and Google was asked to take down, Twitter was asked to take down their tweets. Then comes, then comes the third point, whether Hindenburg is allowed to publish reports in US about any US company. They are not allowed. But they are allowed to do anything with India and create this kind of atmosphere in India. Fourth, whether Adani is burning cash, like Nika was doing, like other companies, Paytm and others, where 70% of the money was lost. The investors lost 70% of their money, but no questions were raised. Now I come to your point of Chinese hand. Whenever there is something, we would always be, try to see who is going to gain out of it. China is the biggest beneficiary because Adani is giving good run to China everywhere. In case of ports, in case of solar panel production, in case of semiconductors, in every field. Therefore, who is going to get benefited? It is China. Therefore, Chinese hand should also be investigated in this.
You're asking for an investigation into the Chinese hands because whether it's ports with Bangladesh, Israel, attempts in Sri Lanka and elsewhere, the Adani Group has been a force multiplier to the India story. Therefore, those linked to the current government say this is something that at least should be investigated, Supriya.
Can I make a small point? I must congratulate Mr. Mahajan for defending Adani better than they could have defended themselves. So big congratulations, sir. You really have put in a very brave defense, completely false and infructuous, and I'll tell you exactly why. Nobody is questioning Mr. Adani's dealings in ports or Haifa, Israel or Sri Lanka or any of that. What are we bothered about? 16 lakh crore worth of market cap has eroded in India's capital market since the 24th of January. 10 lakh crore of that money is Mr. Adani's companies and his counters and his shareholders. They're paying a price for that contagion and that carnage. Why should 6 lakh crore additional money be destroyed of those shareholders who have invested in 4,000 plus perfectly clean, good governed listed entities? Who's going to talk about the minority shareholders in this country? I want to understand. That is SEBI's job. Who is going to talk about the fact that 30 crore worth of LIC policy holders put their money in? Some people who invest in LIC are not, blue-blooded people who are sitting here or the pink papers. People who invest in LIC are people with very, very meager income who believe that zindagi ke saath bhi or zindagi ke baad bhi. That money has been put in Adani, and what is LIC's defense? That our exposure is under control. We entered at 20, we are at 50 or whatever they say. They also went up to 76. There is something called time value of rupee. If I invest 100 rupees 10 years back and 5 years later it becomes 1,000, but again at the end of 10 years it becomes 200, my investment has not gone up from 100 to 200. My investment has come down from 1,000 to 200. That's how financial institutions the world over, mark-to-market CAGR is calculated. That's how it's reported. So let's not get carried away. What about India's banks? 38% of Mr. Adani's exposure is to banks in India on debt. 81,000 crore rupees. 8% of that is private. 30% of that is public money. 45 crore shareholders of SBI want to know how are they ring-fenced?